Hello, my name's Gary Schotten, and I am a big part of Inspiring Better Business, this series of helping people do better business in the workplace, and I just glad you're with me. Today I'm going to talk about the subject title is The Truth Will Come Out. And it comes from the fact that I've had two people in the last 11 years that had some kind of significant theft. These are people that worked for my company, worked and got a paycheck here, and they stole something from us, and there was a completely different track that the two people took, and there's a completely different end result as regarding how and what they did after something was stolen. Well, first of all, we're a fairly trusting company. We're not one that we lock the doors. We have a security system, but you know, a lot of people could come into our shop at various times and get away with something. Outsiders, but insiders for sure. There's a pattern. There's a way we do things, and if you watch anything on the news, you know that a lot of thefts happen from the inside. And so we're not heavy on cameras inside. We basically have an attitude. We trust people. And in this particular case, there's some particular instruments we use for measuring our devices. They're just small little instruments about that big. They're mics and calibers and very special instruments. And for about 4 or 5 things were stolen, adding up to about $2,500. And from a word-of-mouth tip, we knew that they found out they were down at the pawn shop. So my plant manager and I go down to the pawn shop, and sure enough, they're right there. They're ours. There's absolutely no question. There's clear identity. We knew they were ours, and we talked with a very nice pawn shop manager, and he was very helpful, by the way. He could have been much worse, but he has rules. And so we saw the picture of the person that had at least come in and given it to them. That person's name was signed down, and sure enough, that's one of our workers that's working for us right now. And so the next morning, this individual came in. There was 3 of us on our side in management, and we basically, and I led the discussion, and we tried to give all kinds of hints, even kind of suggested the night before that something's kind of up. Even when he came in, he sat down, and my first comment is, hey, have you got anything at all that you want to share with us? Anything at all that's bothering you or anything unusual? No, everything's fine. We're just doing fine. Everything's really good at home and everything. And I said, well, we've got a problem here because we found that some of our instruments are down at the pawn shop, and we saw your picture and your signature. And then he started fumbling around words, and those are things that I think I got from somebody that I think he worked here, and I don't want to get that person in trouble. And I said, you know what? This is not very smart, because you're going to take supposedly the rap for somebody else in order to keep them out of trouble, and you have the chance, and at my discretion, would have a felony on your record. Oh, no, well, I didn't take them. So I just said, well, I'm not a detective. I'm not paid to the detective. I have plenty of work to do myself. I'm just going to call the police right now. And so I called the police, not 911. I talked with him. This person heard me talking to him. And I said, hey, we have this situation, describe the situation. And the person we suspected is sitting right here in front of me. And this person heard me give them, the police, their name, said we're sitting here right now. And it was a very short conversation. And they said, okay, we'll take care of it from there. Well, in about 10 minutes, here comes 2 police officers rolling up to the front door. Nice guys. And at this point, this gentleman that was not being truthful to us started saying, oh, well, I did take him. Well, did you take him or you didn't? No, I did take him. I said, you know, I'm not the detective. You let us call the police. The police are here. And so I stepped out of the room, talked to the police, and the policeman talked to them, and they got a full confession. Full confession. Now, what's the point in this? The point is, why in the world would you rob from your own company? And number 2, what am I going to do about that? Am I just going to say, that's okay, just rob and take anything you want from me or somebody else? No. And the real issue isn't the theft. The real issue for me, and we talked it in the management staff, the real issue is I cannot trust this person anymore. They continued to lie to me right up to the last minute. And then, of course, they said, well, I told you he kind of wanted to keep his job. Well, he's been with us 7 years. He's a good machinist. I could use him, but I can't let that happen. And so I had to say, you know, you did admit it once the police are knocking at the door and we pried it out of you. Now, That's not very cool. The reality is, it was not the issue of the theft. It's the issue I cannot trust the individual anymore. We have a policy to try to take people to restoration. If something goes wrong, especially something kind of idiotic like this, we'll try to work a way. We weren't sure how to do it. We didn't have to come up with anything because he basically hung himself with a long enough rope. Now, person number 2, about 3 years ago, I'm settling quietly in my office in the afternoon, and this individual knocks on the door and says, "Could I come in and talk to you?" He shuts the door, proceeds to kind of squirm a little bit, and pulls a wad. It was really in a little paper envelope, a wad that had $800 in $100 bills. And he said, "You know, I'm so sorry, Gary. I succumbed to some pressure, and I took something. It wasn't the instruments; it was some metal. And I went to the metal recycling. It was some brass, and so it was real valuable. And here's your $800." And he said, "You know, I know you could fire me. I really would appreciate it if I could keep my job." And you know, the end of that was, I talked with my manager. I said, "You know, he's okay. He did steal from, both men stole from me. Both men stole from the company, but one kept their job and kept my respect for that one individual. And the first individual that we had to pry it out of, I don't have much respect. It would take a while for me to gain respect back for that individual. There would have to be a trail, and I can't imagine it happening. And so, you know, he called his own shot. So the lesson learned here, please, is not stealing or not stealing. Yeah, that's the revealer. The revealer is that I cannot trust this person. I can't trust number 1, who I had to pry it out. Number 2, I could trust with them. And they don't work here right now, but left for other reasons. But they worked another 2 or 3 years after this incident happened. And so keep in mind, the truth will always come out. And that's why, as a Christian, I know that God is my guide, my faithful companion, and the Spirit of God is with me. I'm not hiding anything from Him, so I already know that. Occasionally, I'll talk myself into something that I can hide something. Then hold it. Why would I do that? Remember, the truth will always come out. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if someone's kind of tempted in an area of maybe disrespect for their spouse, or messing around on their spouse, or lean in a direction where they're in something immoral or illegal, remember, the truth will come out. It's the same as gravity. It will fall every single time to the ground. And any other law of God, it's His base law of God. I've used that for the last 30 years now, just remembering, hey, I kind of tempted here a little bit, but the truth will come out. I hope you appreciate this. It's a little bit more somber. I thank you for watching. I hope you might share this with others to help them in this process. Thank you very much.